It was nothing like it's absolutely nothing like the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, then there was the Candle Cove one, where it was like,
Uh,
yeah, let's give away the big secret ending to Candle Cove in like halfway through the first episode, and then turn it into like the most generic, like cold case murder mystery story you've ever heard.
yeah, and the thing is, like, I started watching it, and I'm like, oh, so it's like Brand Danowitz from Parks and Rec that's the main character,
Yeah, that
like
saved it a bit.
the guy the guy that they replaced with Adam Scott and Rob Lowe.
Yeah, and then completely like wrote out of the series because later on,
Yeah,
Anne mentions like all of her ex-boyfriends. And she's like, yeah, I went through this phase when I was dating Andy, and this, but she never mentions Brandanowitz.
yeah. It's just like, ah, he didn't exist because like season one, God bless it, it was quite poor.
Yeah,
When it like considering it was like a couple of shows I've watched have done that where it's like, oh, the first season's pretty shit, but if you get to the second season onwards, it's like the best show ever.
yes,
I always laugh when someone says, "Oh, season one sucks. You really gotta get to season two." I'm like, "How'd you get to season two in the first place if it sucked?"
hello, Raptor and Mr. Coon.
Hey guys.
Hello. That was a pretty happy hello.
Yeah,
Well,
someone's chipper this evening.
I'm wearing my teddy bear onesie, so I'm quite happy.
all right, we got the Teddy ones. Again, I think you mean your teddy bear pajamas, because like at least here in America, when I hear onesie, I think like baby onesie.
Well,
Well, over here
that's
they're
what the
called
adults are
onesies.
called too. No, I call them onesies.
Oh, okay. Kenzie, how was the soup? Mr. Coon wants to know.
It was delicious.
What kind was it?
What kind of soup was it?
Cream of tomato.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
But Gemma, I'm sorry. Just I'm picturing this now, like with like short sleeves and like no legs or anything.
Well, it's like it's I used to have a Pikachu one, which was like
Yes.
it was like I had a Pikachu one. The thing is, it made you like because it was quite like it made you look like Pikachu, so it went like out really fast. So it made me look like I was giant. But it was really cozy. But yeah, it's been quite cold recently, so I was like, I'll put on my onesie and I'm gonna be happy.
Nice. Hello, how's everyone doing? Doing fine, Darius. How are you? And yes, Raptor, you can say soup in this chat. Just say it. Don't put the asterisks. Say it.
We're not Rudy.
Yeah. And everyone, please welcome my sister-in-law Gina. She's in the chat.
Hello.
I was telling her about what these streams are like, and she's like, "Okay, let me know the next time. I need to experience this."
Mr. Coon, no, Gemma's not the bear from The Shining.
No.
I'm not. I'm not the bear from The Shining.
God damn it.
I just want to put this out there right now. I'm definitely not the bear from The Shining. I wasn't alive.
That character is expanded a bit more in the book, and
Oh god, the book is.
you don't want to know.
The book isn't even scary. It's just so bizarre.
I like the book.
I liked parts of the book. I think that Kubrick did the best job by turning The Shining into what was essentially a masterpiece. But when Stephen King's like, no, 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 I want to make my own version of the TV show with blackjack and hookers and made a miniseries that is god awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I mean,
Kenzie, I'm not
for
saying I
me-
didn't like the book. I'm just saying it was more bizarre than frightening.
No, I like the book, and I think it does a really good job of establishing mood and tone, and I think it's definitely creepy in different places. But I think I consider The Shining one of the best examples of how just because something is more intimidating in text doesn't mean it translates well to screen, and I think that's what Kubrick really showed, like how he's not, at the end, in the climax, he's not chasing them around with an axe, it's a roque mallet, and that's not scary.
Yeah.
No.
I gotta say real quick, Raptor, I'm sorry, but I think I'm quoting you for the first time.
What did Raptor say?
I'm a dinosaur who loves gaming and mountain deaths. I'm sorry, but I have to apply it to everyone fairly.
Yes. One of the one thing about Stephen King, because I do enjoy some of his books, but I've always said about this is that Stephen King has some really great base ideas that films have been able to translate his novels better than the actual novels are.
But he can't write a good ending.
Yeah, because like for instance, like the book of Carrie is great. The film is fantastic. The same with like the short story for 1408 is very effective, but the film 1408 is fucking terrifying, and I love it.
Right.
That kind of thing. It's just like they seems to have this bare bones ideas that filmmakers just go, right, I'll snatch that up and make this better.
Even Misery, which is probably one of the more faithful adaptations of one of Stephen King's horror books, except probably one of the biggest changes was that in the book, Annie is supposed to be really fat and slovenly. She's unkept and unwashed a lot. And it was made all the more effective by having Kathy Bates being, well-groomed, almost motherly, because I think that made it even more intimidating.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That, like Misery is a fantastic film. I actually started wanting to watch it just before we get into this. I really wanted to start watching Castle Rock, which is that show that's apparently is like based in like it's to do with all like Stephen King's novels, and they've all like at least like some of them, and they all live in this one place in Maine, and like.
Well, Castle Rock is a series he's done, right? And then there like other novels make references to it, or maybe the other way around.
Yeah, that kind of thing. The same with like Lovecraft and like Arkham and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They all sort of like surround one place.
Yeah, and
like, I love the comparison.
Robert Howard.
Castle Rock is Stephen King's Arkham.
Yeah. Oh god, Raptor. No, my introduction was seemingly so perfect. No, pawn. I have been embarrassed. And a bunch of crying emojis.
Oh dear.
God, yeah, Gemma, did you watch last week's Empress Teresa?
I saw some of it. I haven't finished it yet. I was going to finish the rest of it in the bath.
Did you hear me the point where I was like dying laughing when Raptor was like, no, like he was, or maybe that was the Velocipaster who was like, no, it's supposed to be a good Christian stream. No, what if my mom sees me doing this? Like Raptor, I'm not making fun of you, man. Like you do like the best comical freakouts. You crack me up.
I think that might have been Velocipaster.
Yeah, with the sex scene.
We did reference at least on one Empress Teresa stream, one of his mom came in while he was doing one of our streams, and she doesn't find him like doing anything, like watching pornography or anything. He's just on stream with two adults who are talking about inappropriate sexual jokes. Oh wait.
Yeah, Kenzie, both you and him with that sexy though, like you like, no, make it stop.
And I was just in the chat. That was not fun. And at one point, I'm watching it. I'm like, it's still going.
Yeah. Hey, it does like the 80s music video, like 20 different scenes, like all on the screen at once, grid pattern. It's like, why?
It's like, why? Why would you?
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Until I looked it up, I actually legitimately thought this was another case of The Room where the guy who played the Velocipaster was also the director and writer.
That would have been great.
Apparently not the case.
Still, the best part though. Look, cocaine. Either that or what did you say was the scoliosis raptor?
Yeah, when he finally shows them in the full body dinosaur suit. I never saw a T-Rex with scoliosis before.
Well, I mean that's wrong. The best part is actually Frankie Mermaid, but you know what I mean.
For me, it's so stupid and insignificant. One of my favorite parts is when he just goes to China. It shows it in the caption, he's in China, and then it just shows him, like, hiking, and then he stops and goes, "Ah, China."
Oh, I remember that.
Which is probably what Chris Chan said the first time he got laid with a prostitute.
All right, I think that warrants the picture.
So NoEnd House, huh?
Yeah. But and Gemma, I know you were about to say merman.
Merman.
Hello, Emperor Crimson. You've heard of this one. Come drink a White Claw with me right now, Gina. I can't.
Yeah. Ooh, I can get one.
How about it?
I've never had a White Claw. I don't know what they are. I just know that they exist.
It's alcoholic flavored seltzer water.
It's a basic white bitch's answer to beer.
Ah.
I gotta say, like,
we don't have alcoholic seltzer water. What's a seltzer? What's seltzer water?
Just seltzer, like carbonated water.
Oh, like sparkling water.
Yeah.
Ah, that's what that is.
Yeah. Actually, I had a lemon White Claw with Gina the other night. Was not a fan of the lemon. Mostly just did it to...
Is it just like fancy LaCroix?
Kind of.
Yeah, basically think of it as a sparse, why am I blanking? It's an
alcoholic LaCroix.
Yeah. Spiked. That's what I'm thinking of. Your gecko.
Spiked LaCroix.
Yeah. Booze Daddy Mandela. Mr. Kuhn, did you not pay attention during any of the Empress Teresa streams when I was drinking the entire time? I'm longing for a sexy boyfriend-free girl with a healthy-looking Communist Party of China. Thank you, Raptor. It's interesting to finally know what kind of woman you're into.
Raptor, go to your room.
Some silly laws that implement because of a virus heresy. I say drink that White Claw with your sister. What? I will... No, I will drink one with her, just I can't go right now. It's like a 35-minute drive to their house.
Unless you want to do part of the stream in the car.
I don't know if I can stream from my phone. It's like, okay, yeah, let me hook up my my computer to the cigarette lighter here.
Oh, also speaking of geckos, mostly Gemma, but everyone in Go and Enjoyed. I've been meaning to post it. Go look in Shrine of Paco.
Oh, yes.
It's one of my favorite videos.
Oh, and Kenzie, apparently Gina says that your description of White Claw is the best ever.
Thank you.
I want to talk about... Well, like I said, Gina, I'll have you on stream sometime.
That'd be cool.
Geckos with Yoshi's huts. Oh my god, that's awesome.
No, it's so cute.
I will watch it after the stream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, that's what I should do.
Yes,
I mean, it's literally like 12 seconds, I think.
Yeah, the story.
So is this story good? Yes, it is good. This is how Manny dies trying to stream on the freeway. It's
the cops get to you and the stream's still going.
It's like, okay, guys, I'm losing a lot of blood. I hear the ambulance come though. Before I pass out, just like, comment, subscribe.
We just hear silence except a bunch of like cars and stuff, and then eventually sirens. Finally, we hear footsteps. Seems he was streaming. Oh god, it's still going.
And then there's like a specific law in Pennsylvania saying like against streaming while driving entirely because of me.
The man, like the Bean Daddy law.
You know, like people going through the books like, the fuck is a bean daddy law? Why does it have nothing to do with beans?
Or daddies.
I think then that's how you post I don't know how it's pronounced, but post-mortem get all these subscribers.
Yeah, I have all these subscribers when I'm dead.
It's the rock star myth. You don't get famous until after you're dead.
Okay, I'm not gonna call myself a rock star because I know Coe will be right behind Gemma, just shake his head and walk out of the room again. Like what I said
Well,
Pim.
we already know you're a rock star. Do you not remember your groundbreaking stream
Shh.
of karaoke?
Shh.
Hey, Gina, if you look back a few weeks, you'll find a stream.
Yeah, she knows about the singing.
Make sure you share that at every family reunion.
No!
I have
some
heard him
real
sing
great
since
banter
then.
with me and Gemma. We're very funny and delightful, but the singing
Yes.
is the showstopper.
Oh. Anyway.
People like us.
Then J Station makes a 3 a.m. challenge trying to contact you.
Read the other one.
However, in another universe, he doesn't die because of the Mandela effect.
No, the other, Ember Crimson's other comment.
Is the story bad? Because if it is, I'll need to toke.
No. Or
No.
Eli So Cray makes a video pretending to have sex with Manny.
Can I FaceTime? Gina, we're using Discord, not FaceTime. Do you have the Discord? Manny's severely injured. I'm fine. I've said it a million times. Kenzie, can you take the next 3? Here's sirens. Make that 4 pages.
For Manny. So anyway. And then we're interrupted and we hear, "This is Sergeant Johnson, gang."
Did you just say Sergeant Gunn?
No, Johnson.
No, but you corrected yourself.
I don't know.
I heard
can't
Gun
speak.
Johnson.
Gun Johnson. Just like pulls down his trousers. Instead of dick, he's just got a gun there.
His George Washington.
Yes. And Gina's probably like...
So this story...
Gina's like, I am never watching this again.
The George
So this story's
Washington
NoEnd House.
joke will forever be one of my favorite gags from Bad Creepypasta.
It's a good one.
It was a funny day. That was a funny day.
I remember
came home
I
from
was
work.
hanging out with a bunch of friends. We were just hanging out at my house drinking, and I played that part for them.
Excellent.
I'd come in from work and then like there was just things just happening in the kitchen, and then we did that story.
Gina, are you saying yes that you have Discord, or are you just saying yes? Alright, anyway. Okay. So, NoEnd House. Just make sure I got the we're bad at this picture off the screen for now. Alright, we didn't decide how we're gonna do this.
Manny, this picture is false advertising. There are very obvious ends to this house, and they're very pointy.
That is true.
That is true.
It is a very pointy house.
Okay, are you like literal Larry's cousin or something?
Yes.
Excellent.
I am Captain Obvious Kenzie.
Alright, Yeah, we didn't.
Captain is spelled with a K.
Okay. Well, at least there's not. At least obvious doesn't start with a K either.
Don't.
But seriously, we didn't decide how we're gonna break up reading this.
Should we just keep playing it by ear like we've done with Pen Pal?
Well, I mean, with Pen Pal, I was going every 3 pages.
Whereas this is a bit shorter.
Oh yeah.
Alright, how about, Mr. Kun, no. How about, whatever one of you wants to take over, you just say something.
Do we have a noise? Can we have a noise?
Yes.
Yay.
I don't know how to play sound effects on this, but if you've got something, go for it.
Yoshi sound effect.
Just be like, whee! I don't know.
Oh, it sucks that I'm not home alone. I have a megaphone that can do siren effects.
Oh,
We're just like reading a really intense or ominous portion. All of a sudden, you just hear a loud-ass siren blaring in your ear.
no, Gina, not that, Larry. Not Boo Guy. But yeah, Gina knows how everyone loves Lorenzo.
Figure out how we can. Sort of like. Just trying to like. I was like, "Are you reading it?" That's because I was like, I've got it on my phone, so like I've got like a chunk of it to the bottom, and then. Nah, that's not gonna work. Forget what I said.
We should really plan these more ahead of time instead of when we're actually on stream.
Okay, I will read. The last line I'll read will be room 3 is when things began to change.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, Gina. Bye for now. Let the little ones know I said hi.
Bye, Gina.
Thank you for stopping.
Yeah, tell them Uncle Chen says hi.
Aww.
Although, actually, my niece just says Uncle Chad now, but she used to say Uncle Chen. Many possibly racist Chinese jokes were made.
It's just so weird hearing when you're actually referred to by your real name.
Yeah.
Because, well, the thing is not only because we mostly just know you as Manny, but at this point, Chad just doesn't sound like a real name anymore.
But I assure you, that is my real name.
Oh, no, I know it is, and I'm not... It is by no means your fault that it doesn't sound like a real name anymore, but it's just used so much.
Yeah. Alright, but yes. Okay, no more distractions. Reading now.
Yes.
Let me start by saying that Peter Terry was addicted to heroin.
Jumping in head first. Are we?
We were friends in college and continued to be after I graduated. Notice that I said I. He dropped out after 2 years of barely cutting it. After I moved out of the dorms and into a small apartment, I didn't see Peter as much. We would talk online every now and then. AIM was king in pre-Facebook years. There was a period where he wasn't online for about 5 weeks straight. I wasn't worried. He was a pretty notorious flake and drug addict, so I assumed he just stopped caring. Then one night I saw him log on. Before I could initiate a conversation, he sent me a message. David, man, we need to talk. That was when he told me about the NoEnd House. So that's why they call it that. It got that name because no one had ever reached the final exit. The rules were pretty simple and cliché. Reach the final room of the building and you win $500. There were 9 rooms in all. The house was located outside the city, roughly 4 miles from my house. Apparently Peter had tried and failed. He was a heroin and who knows what the fuck addict. So I figured the drugs got the best of him, and he wiggled out a paper wigged out at a paper ghost or something. He told me it would be too much for anyone, that it was unnatural.
Is this where that crazy fuckknuckle got the idea for McCamey Manor?
I don't know what that is.
That's a topic for another day. We could dedicate an entire stream to that.
Excellent. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I didn't believe him. I told him I would check it out the next night, and no matter how hard he tried to convince me otherwise, $500 sounded too good to be true. I had to go. I set out the following night. When I arrived, I immediately noticed something strange about the building. Have you ever seen or read something that shouldn't be scary, but for some reason a chill crawls up your spine? I walked toward the building, and the feeling of uneasiness only intensified as I opened the front door. My heart slowed, and I let a relieved sigh leave me as I entered. The room looked like a normal hotel lobby decorated for Halloween. A sign was posted in place of a worker. It read, "Room 1 this way. 8 more follow. Reach the end and you win." I chuckled and made my way to the first door. The first area was almost laughable. The decor resembled the Halloween aisle of a Kmart, complete with sheet ghosts and animatronic zombies that gave a static growl when you passed by. At the far end was an exit. It was the only door besides the one I entered through. I brushed through the fake spider webs and headed for the second room. I was greeted by fog as I opened the door to room number 2. The room definitely upped the ante in terms of technology. Not only was there a fog machine, but a bat hung from the ceiling and flew in a circle. Scary. They seemed to have a Halloween soundtrack that one would find in a 99-cent store on loop somewhere in the room. I didn't see the stereo, but I guess they must have used a PA system. I stepped over a few toy rats that wheeled around and walked with a puffed chest across to the next area. I reached for the doorknob, and my heart sank to my knees. I did not want to open that door. A feeling of dread hit me so hard I could barely even think. Logic overtook me after a few terrified moments, and I shook it off and entered the next room. Room 3 is where things began to change.
Okay. On the surface, it looked like a normal room. There was a chair in the middle of the wood paneled floor. A single lamp in the corner did a poor job of lighting the area, casting a few shadows across the floor and the walls. That was the problem. Shadows. Plural. With the exception of the chairs, there were others. I had barely walked in the door, and I was already terrified. It was at that moment that I knew something wasn't right. I didn't even think as I automatically tried to open the door I came through. It was locked from the other side. That set me off. Was someone locking the doors as I progressed? There was no way. I would have heard them. Was it a mechanical lock that set automatically? Maybe. But I was too scared to really think. I turned back to the room and the shadows were gone. The chair shadow remained, but the others were gone. I slowly began to walk. I used to hallucinate when I was a kid, so I wrote off the shadows as a figment of my imagination. I began to feel better as I made it to the halfway point of the room. I looked down as I took my steps, and that's when I saw it. Or didn't see it. My shadow wasn't there. I didn't have time to scream. I ran as fast as I could to the other door and flung myself without thinking into the room beyond. The fourth room was possibly the most disturbing. As I closed the door, all light seemed to be sucked out and put back into the previous room. I stood there, surrounded by darkness, not able to move. I'm not afraid of the dark and never have been, but I was absolutely terrified. All sight had left me. I held my hand in front of my face, and if I didn't know what I was doing, I would never have been able to tell. Darkness doesn't describe it. I couldn't hear anything. It was dead silence. When you're in a soundproof room, you can still hear yourself breathing. You can hear yourself being alive. I couldn't. I began to stumble forward after a few moments, my rapidly beating heart the only thing I could feel. There was no door in sight. Wasn't even sure there was one this time. The silence was then broken by a low hum. Am I still here? Am I still being heard?
Yes.
No. Or am I?
Yeah.
Yes, I was like, have I just gone off the rails again? Sorry.
No, sorry, I took off my mic while you
I,
were.
oh, no worries. It's because it happened earlier where I just where I jumped off the call and I had to go back in, so I was just making sure. Okay. I felt something behind me. I spun around wildly, but could barely even see my nose. I knew it was there, though. Regardless of how dark it was, I knew something was there. The hum grew louder, closer. It seemed to surround me, but I knew whatever was causing the noise was in front of me, inching closer. I took a step back. I'd never felt that kind of fear. I can't really describe true fear. I wasn't even scared I was going to die. I was scared of what the alternative was. I was afraid of what this thing had in store for me. Then the lights flashed for a second. I saw it. Nothing. I saw nothing, and I know I saw nothing. The room was again plunged into darkness, and the hum became a wild screech. I screamed in protest. I couldn't hear the goddamn sound for another minute. I ran backwards, away from the noise, and fumbled for the door handle. I turned and fell into room 5. Before I describe room 5, you have to understand something. I am not a drug addict. I have had no history of drug abuse or any sort of psychosis short of the childhood hallucinations I mentioned earlier, and those were only when I was really tired or just waking up. I entered the NoEnd House with a clear head. After falling in from the previous room, my view of room 5 was from my back, looking up at the ceiling. What I saw didn't scare me, it simply surprised me. Trees had grown into the room and towered above my head. The ceiling in this room was taller than the others, which made me think I was in the center of the house. I got up off the floor, dusted myself off, and took a look around. It was definitely the biggest room of them all. I couldn't even see the door from where I was. Various brush and trees must have blocked my line of sight with the exit. Up to this point, I figured the rooms were going to get scarier, but this was a paradise compared to the last room. I also assumed whatever was in room 4 stayed back there. I was incredibly wrong. As I made my way deeper into the room, I began to hear what one would hear if they were in a forest. Chirping bugs and the occasional flaps of birds that seemed to be my only company in the room. That was the thing that bothered me the most. I heard the bugs and other animals, but I didn't see any of them. I began to wonder how big this house was. From the outside, when I first walked up to it, it looked like a regular house. It was definitely on the bigger side, but this was almost a full forest in here. The canopy covered my view of the ceiling, but I assumed it was still there, however high it was. Couldn't see any walls, either. The only way I knew I was still inside was that the floor matched the other rooms, the standard dark wood paneling. I kept walking, hoping that the next tree I passed would reveal the door. After a few moments of walking, I felt a mosquito fly onto my arm, and I shook it off and kept going. A second later, I felt about 10 more land on my skin at different places. I felt them crawl up and down my arms and legs, and a few made their way across my face. I flailed wildly to get them off, but they just kept crawling. I looked down and let out a muffled scream, more of a whimper, to be honest. I didn't see a single bug. Not one bug was on me, but I could feel them crawl. I heard them fly by my face and sting my skin, but I couldn't see a single one. I dropped to the ground and began to roll wildly. I was desperate. I hated bugs, especially ones I couldn't see or touch. But these bugs could touch me, and they were everywhere. Am I still here?
Yeah.
Cool. When do you want me to stop reading?
Whenever you want.
Okay. I'll read up until and then room 6 was hell.
Okay.
Like, I began to crawl. I had no idea where I was going. The entrance was nowhere in sight, and I still hadn't even seen the exit, so I just crawled, my skin wriggling with the presence of those phantom bugs. After what seemed like hours, I found the door. I grabbed the nearest tree and propped myself up. mindlessly slapping my arms and legs to no avail. I tried to run, but I couldn't. My body was exhausted from crawling and dealing with whatever it was that was on me. I took a few shaky steps to the door, grabbing each tree on the way for support. It was only a few feet away when I heard it, the low hum from before. It was coming from the next room, and it was deeper. I could almost feel it inside my body, like when you stand next to an amp at a concert. The feeling of the bugs on me lessened as the hum grew louder. As I placed my hand on the doorknob, the bugs were completely gone, but I couldn't bring myself to turn the knob. I knew that if I let go, the bugs would return and there was no way I could make it back to room 4. It just stood there, my head pressed against the door marked 6 and my hand shakily grasping the knob. The hum was so loud I couldn't even hear myself pretend to think. There was nothing I could do but move on. Room 6 was next, and room 6 was hell.
I closed the door behind me, my eyes held shut and my ears ringing. The hum was surrounding me. As the door clicked into place, the hum was gone. I opened my eyes in surprise, and the door I had shut was gone. It was just a wall now. I looked around in shock. The room was identical to room 3. The same chair and lamp, but with the correct amount of shadows this time. The only real difference was that there was no exit door and the one I came through was gone. As I said before, I had no previous issues in terms of mental instability, but at that moment I fell into what I now know was insanity. I didn't scream. I didn't make a sound. At first I scratched softly. The wall was tough, but I knew the door was there somewhere. I just knew it was. I scratched at where the doorknob was. I clawed at the wall frantically with both hands, my nails being filed down to the skin against the wood. I fell silently to my knees, the only sound in the room, the incessant scratching against the wall. I knew it was there. The door was there. I knew it was just there. I knew if I could just get past this wall. Are you all right? I jumped off the wall and spun in one motion. I leaned against the wall behind me and saw what it was that spoke to me. To this day I regret ever turning around. There was a little girl. She was wearing a soft white dress that went down to her ankles. She had long blonde hair in the middle of her back and white skin and blue eyes. She was the most frightening thing I had ever seen, and I know that nothing in my life will ever be as unnerving as what I saw in her. While looking at her, I saw something else. Where she stood, I saw what looked like a man's body, only larger than normal and covered in hair. He was naked from head to toe, but his head was not human and his toes were hooves. It wasn't the devil, but at that moment it might as well have been. The form had the head of a ram and the snout of a wolf. It was horrifying, and it was synonymous with the little girl in front of me. They were the same form. I can't really describe it, but I saw them at the same time. They shared the same spot in that room, but it was like looking at 2 separate dimensions. When I saw the girl, I saw the form, and when I saw the form, I saw the girl. I couldn't speak. I could barely even see. My mind was revolting against what it was attempting to process. I had been scared before in my life, and I had never been more scared than when I was trapped in the 4th room, but that was before room 6. I just stood there, staring at whatever it was that spoke to me. There was no exit. I was trapped here with it. And then it spoke again. David, you should have listened. When it spoke, I heard the words of the little girl, but the other form spoke through my mind in a voice I won't attempt to describe. There was no other sound. The voice just kept repeating that sentence over and over in my mind, and I agreed. I didn't know what to do. I was slipping into madness, yet couldn't take my eyes off of what it was in front of me. I dropped to the floor. I thought I had passed out, but the room wouldn't let me. I just wanted it to end. I was on my side, my eyes wide open, and the form staring down at me. Scurrying across the floor in front of me was one of the battery-powered rats from the 2nd room. The house was toying with me, but for some reason, seeing that rat pulled my mind back from whatever depths it was headed, and I looked around the room. I was getting out of there. I was determined to get out of that house and live and never think about this place again. I knew this room was hell, and I wasn't ready to take up a residency. At first, it was just my eyes that moved. I searched the walls for any kind of opening. The room wasn't that big, so it didn't take long to soak up the entire layout. The demon still taunted me, the voice growing louder as the form stayed rooted where it stood. I placed my hand on the floor, lifted myself up to all fours, and turned to scan the wall behind me. Then I saw something I couldn't believe. The form was now at my back, whispering into my mind how I shouldn't have come. I felt its breath on the back of my neck, but I refused to turn around. A large rectangle was scratched into the wood, with a small dent chipped away in the center of it. Right in front of my eyes, I saw the large 7 I had mindlessly etched into the wall. I knew what it was. Room 7 was just beyond that wall where room 5 was moments ago. I don't know how I had done it. Maybe it was just my state of mind at the time, but I had created the door. I knew I had. In my madness, I had scratched into the wall what I needed the most, an exit to the next room. Room 7 was close. I knew the demon was right behind me, but for some reason it couldn't touch me. I closed my eyes and placed both hands on the large 7 in front of me. I pushed. I pushed as hard as I could. The demon was now screaming in my ear. It told me I was never leaving. It told me that this was the end, but I wasn't going to die. I was going to live there in room 6 with it. I wasn't. I pushed and screamed at the top of my lungs. I knew I was going to push through the wall eventually. Do you know where you want me to stop reading?
How about the just this one last paragraph, and then I'll take over.
Okay.
Cool.
I clenched my eyes shut and screamed, and the demon was gone. I was left in silence. I turned around slowly and was greeted by the room as it was when I entered. Just a chair and a lamp. I couldn't believe it, but I didn't have time to dwell. I turned back to the 7 and jumped back slightly. What I saw was a door. It wasn't the one I had scratched in, but a regular door with a large 7 on it. My whole body was shaking. It took me a while to turn the knob. I just stood there for a while, staring at the door. I couldn't stay in room 6. I couldn't. But if this was the only room 6, I couldn't imagine what 7 had in store. I must have stood there for an hour, just staring at the 7. Finally, with a deep breath, I twisted the knob and opened the door to room 7.
I stumbled through the door mentally exhausted and physically weak. The door behind me closed, and I realized where I was. I was outside. Not outside like room 5, but actually outside. My eyes stung. I wanted to cry. I fell to my knees and tried, but I couldn't. I was finally out of that hell. I didn't even care about the prize that was promised. I turned and saw that the door I just went through was the entrance. I walked to my car and drove home, thinking about how nice a shower sounded. As I pulled into my house, I felt uneasy. The joy of leaving NoEnd House had faded and dread was slowly building in my stomach. I shook it off as residual from the house and made my way to the front door. I entered and immediately went up to my room. There on my bed was my cat, Baskerville. He was the first living thing I had seen all night, and I reached to pet him. He hissed and swiped at my hand. I recoiled in shock, as he had never acted like that. I thought, whatever, he's an old cat. I jumped in the shower and got ready for what I was expecting to be a sleepless night. After my shower, I went to the kitchen to make something to eat. I descended the stairs and turned into the family room. What I saw would be forever burned into my mind, however. My parents were lying on the ground, naked and covered in blood. They were mutilated to near unidentifiable states. Their limbs were removed and placed next to their bodies, and their heads were placed on their chests facing me. The most unsettling thing was their expressions. They were smiling, as though they were happy to see me. I vomited and sobbed there in the family room. I don't know what had happened. They didn't even live with me at the time. I was a mess. Then I saw it. A door that was never there before. A door with a large 8 scrawled on it in blood. I was still in the house. I was standing in my family room, but I was in room 7. The faces of my parents smiled wider as I realized this. They weren't my parents. They couldn't be, but they looked exactly like them. The door marked 8 was across the room, behind the mutilated bodies in front of me. I knew I had to move on, but at that moment I gave up. The smiling faces tore into my mind. They ground me where I stood. I vomited again and nearly collapsed. Then the hum returned. It was louder than ever, and it filled the house and shook the walls. The hum compelled me to walk. I began to walk slowly, making my way closer to the door and the bodies. I could barely stand, let alone walk, and the closer I got to my parents, the closer I came to suicide. The walls were now shaking so hard it seemed as though they were going to crumble, but still the faces smiled at me. As I inched closer, their eyes followed me. I was now between the two bodies, a few feet away from the door. The dismembered hands clawed their way across the carpet towards me. All while the faces continued to stare. Now terror washed over me, and I walked faster. I didn't want to hear them speak. I didn't want the voices to match those of my parents. They began to open their mouths, and the hands were inches from my feet. In a dash of desperation, I lunged toward the door, threw it open, and slammed it behind me. Roommate. I was done. After what I had just experienced, I knew there wasn't anything else this fucking house could throw at me that I couldn't live through. There was nothing short of the fires of hell that I wasn't ready for. Unfortunately, I underestimated the abilities of NoEnd House. Unfortunately, things got more disturbing, more terrifying, and more unspeakable in Roommate. I still have trouble believing what I saw in Roommate. Again, the room was a carbon copy of rooms 3 and 6, but sitting in the usually empty chair was a man. After a few seconds of disbelief, my mind finally accepted the fact that the man sitting in the chair was me. Not someone who looked like me. It was David Williams. I walked closer. I had to get a better look, even though I was sure of it. He looked up at me, and I noticed tears in his eyes. Please. Please don't do it. Please don't hurt me. What? I asked. Who are you? I'm not going to hurt you. Yes, you are. You're going to hurt me, and I don't want you to. He sat in the chair with his legs up and began rocking back and forth. It was actually pretty pathetic looking, especially since he was me, identical in every way. Listen, who are you? I was now only a few feet from my doppelganger. It was the weirdest experience yet, standing there talking to myself. I wasn't scared, but I would be soon. Why are you? You're going to hurt me! You're going to hurt me! You're going to leave! You're going to hurt me! Why are you saying this? Just calm down, alright? Let's try and figure this, and then I saw it. The David sitting down was wearing the same clothes as me, except for a small red patch on his shirt embroidered with the number 9. You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. Please, you're going to hurt me. My eyes didn't leave that small number on his chest. I knew exactly what it was. The first few doors were plain and simple, but after a while they got a little more ambiguous. 7 was scratched into the wall, but by my own hands. 8 was marked in blood above the bodies of my parents. But 9, this number was on a person, a living person. Worse still, it was on a person that looked exactly like me. David? I had to ask. Yes, you're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. He continued to sob and rock. He answered to David. He was me, right down to the voice. But that 9. I paced around for a few minutes while he sobbed in his chair. The room had no door, and similarly to room 6, the door I came through was gone. For some reason, I assumed that scratching would get me nowhere this time. I studied the walls and floor around the chair, sticking my head underneath and seeing if anything was below. Unfortunately, there was. Below the chair was a knife. Attached was a tag that read, "To David, from management." The feeling in my stomach as I read that tag was something sinister. I wanted to throw up, and the last thing I wanted to do was remove that knife from under the chair. The other David was still sobbing uncontrollably. My mind was spinning into an attic of unanswerable questions. Who put this here, and how did they get my name? Not to mention the fact that as I knelt on the cold wood floor, I also sat in that chair, sobbing in protest of being hurt by myself. It was all too much to process. The house and the management had been playing with me this whole time. My thoughts for some reason turned to Peter, and whether or not he got this far. If he did, if he met a Peter Terry sobbing in this very chair, rocking back and forth. I shook those thoughts out of my head. They didn't matter. I took the knife from under the chair, and immediately the other David went quiet. David, he said in my voice, what do you think you're going to do? I lifted myself from the ground and clenched the knife in my hand. I'm going to get out of here. David was still sitting in the chair, though he was very calm now. He looked up at me with a slight grin. I couldn't tell if he was going to laugh or strangle me. Slowly, he got up from the chair and stood, facing me. It was uncanny. His height and even the way he stood matched mine. I felt the rubber hilt of the knife in my hand and gripped it tighter. I don't know what I was planning to do with it, but I had a feeling I was going to need it. No. His voice was slightly deeper than my own. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you and I'm going to keep you here. I didn't respond. I just lunged and tackled him to the ground. I had mounted him and looked down, knife poised and ready. He looked up at me, terrified. It was like I was looking in a mirror. Then the hum returned, low and distant, though I still felt it deep in my body. David looked up at me as I looked down at myself. The hum was getting louder, and I felt something inside me snap. With one motion, I slammed the knife into the patch on his chest and ripped down. Blackness fell on the room, and I was falling.
Shall I read from now, or?
Yes, if you like.
Cool. The darkness around me was like nothing I'd experienced up to that point. Room 4 was dark. It didn't come close to what I was completely engulfed in. It didn't come close to what was completely engulfing me. I wasn't even sure if I was falling after a while. I felt weightless, covered in dark. Then a deep sadness came over me. I felt lost, depressed, and suicidal. The sight of my parents entered my mind. I knew it wasn't real, but I had seen it, and the mind had trouble differentiating between what is real and what isn't. The sadness only deepened. I was in room 9 for what seemed like days. Final room. And that's exactly what it was. End. NoEnd House had an end, and I had reached it. At that moment I gave up, and I knew I would be in that in-between state forever, accompanied by nothing but darkness. Not even the hum was there to keep me sane. I'd lost all senses. I couldn't feel myself. I couldn't hear anything. Sight was completely useless here. I searched for a taste in my mouth and found nothing. I felt disembodied and completely lost. I knew where I was. This was hell. Room 9 was hell. Then it happened. A light. One of those stereotypical lights at the end of the tunnel. I felt ground come up from below me and I was standing, after a moment or two of gathering my thoughts and senses. I slowly walked towards that light. As I approached the light, it took form. It was a vertical slit down the side of an unmarked door. I slowly walked through the door and found myself back where I started, the lobby of the NoEnd House. It was exactly how I had left it, still empty, still decorated with childish Halloween decorations. After everything that had happened that night, I was still wary of where I was. After a few moments of normalcy, I looked around the place trying to find anything different. On the desk was a plain white envelope with my name handwritten on it. Immensely curious, yet still cautious, I mustered up the courage to open the envelope. Inside was a letter, again handwritten. Kenzie, do you want to finish?
Sure. Williams, congratulations! You have made it to the end of NoEnd House. Please accept this prize as a token of great achievement. Yours forever, Management. With the letter there were 5 $100 bills. I couldn't stop laughing. I laughed for what seemed like hours. I laughed as I walked out to my car and laughed as I drove home. I laughed as I pulled into my driveway. I laughed as I opened my front door to my house and laughed as I saw the small 10 etched into the wood. And that was NoEnd House.
Yes.
Yep. So, Kenzie, what did you think?
I had a little chat with Darius, real quick when I was not reading, and I'll be honest, I didn't love it. By no means is it the level of shit we would see on bad creepypasta, but as I was expecting more. I think it seemed more rushed. I think there needed to be a lot more time dedicated to the different rooms, but still a really good effort. And I think just my biggest complaint was it contains one of my bigger pet peeves in writing, and it's that cliched buildup of, and what I saw chilled me to the very bone, and what I saw made me think suicidal thoughts, I hate that kind of buildup.
That's fair.
Yeah. Like, I like the story because of the kind of I think in a way I like it more because of what my mind does when I read it. Is like when you start imagining what the rooms are like
Mm-hmm.
and being in that position. I think it does that very well. But I do agree that it could be longer.
Yeah.
I do agree, like, what it does, like, how it will make you think about the rooms. And there is a creativity to what goes into each room, and I like that a lot. I just think a lot more time needed to be dedicated to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said this one is good, but it's not great.
Yeah. That's kind of like how I feel about it. Like, I feel that I could do something with it in a way, like, if that makes sense. Like, I've wanted to sort of like
Well,
turn that into an actual thing that exists.
but Gemma, you did do something with it. You read parts of it.
Do you know
I
when this
did.
was written?
This was quite an old one. This was like maybe around the same, maybe about 2010, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if the original writer maybe came back to it after over a decade maybe of experience, hopefully they'd kept at writing, because again, this was a very good first go.
Yeah.
I think if they had come back to it older and stuff, they could really make something special.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
they did do sequels to it. There is sequels to it. Like there's like essentially like a second like a second story to do with it. As far as I'm aware,
okay.
but I'm not.
I
Yeah,
think I
I
think it
haven't.
might have been from Darius. Someone mentioned that they really did not like one of the sequels.
Yeah, yeah. There's a sequel. Oh yeah, it was written. Well, NoEnd House 2 was written in 2012.
Okay. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I just have to cut in for a second here. And 5 days ago, the latest comment on this is so fake. No,
No
really?
shit.
Uh, and as for coming back to it, I agree that would be cool. But I don't know how much what's the fellow's name here? Brian Russell is really encouraged to do that, since like we said, this got made into a mini series for Channel Zero. So he's probably like, I got a nice fat check from that. I don't need to do shit.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is, probably.
It like reminds
Yeah,
me of a joke of a comedian where you do something right, like Harper Lee with To Kill a Mockingbird, and then you just live off that for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
It's like if I told a joke and just no other joke, and they're like, "Aren't you gonna do anything else?" No. Did you hear the first joke? Fucking nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Why even risk it after that?
Okay, I like the comment that's after this is so fake. Let me start by saying that Peter Terry was addicted to heroin. Yeah, what was the point of that?
I guess to say, like, why he might doubt Peter's like ability to like really describe how bad the NoEnd House was, and so that he could say, like, I wasn't on heroin, unlike Peter, who might have been.
I think there could have been better ways.
Look, cocaine.
I mean, my god.
Wait, I'm sorry, Raptor. I saw that, so I'm gonna have to quote you again.
Oh, what did Raptor say now?
Shook fuck.
Oh, almost had to fix a typo
Why does my
myself
phone
there.
keep? Why does my phone keep kicking me out of calls?
I don't know.
Like, it did it within the first 15 minutes of the stream, and then did it again just now, and I'm like, alright then. Time for me to go then.
Yeah, it is apostrophe Raptor Rex 2021.
Apparently this call, according to my phone, apparently this call is going out on the 1st of January 1970.
Oh.
What kind of time traveler are you?
I don't know.
Gemma for the next Doctor Who.
And Raptor says barnacles, quoted again. He really should have developed Peter's character, gone into his backstory, fleshed the whole thing out a little. What's that called? World building? I genuinely don't. No, I know what you're saying, Darius, and I agree about that. As for like going through the room so rapidly, like I agree it could have been expanded on more, but I also think it was like trying to give, like Gemma said, the idea of what it would be like actually being there. Like, you don't have time to stop and think about it. You're just frightened and want to get out. But, you know, you still could have thrown in some more observation there.
Yeah.
I am with
Like,
Darius on that. I do think that there need, because they just really do throw us in head first, especially with, let me just start by saying, my buddy here, heroin addict. But,
yeah.
I think there could have been a more tactful way of suggesting that what Pierre was saying was hard to believe without him being addicted to one of the most addictive substances on the planet. But I also think there needed to be more going in depth of the main character. Like, we know his name, but maybe other than the fact that I wasn't on heroin, what made you think that you could maybe get through the house? And
Well,
there was this one section that I think that I was really liking at first, and then the ending kind of I didn't think worked, was when he was in the room with the man with the other David, and he keeps saying, "You're gonna hurt me," and he finds the knife. Now, I thought that this is probably the instance where a little bit of gratuitous violence would actually work, where the fear of hurting another person, especially when this person looks so much like yourself, is enough to provide enough fear and intensity and would just work. It's kind of like a Saw situation. And then it goes, "Oh, you're not going to hurt me. I'm going to hurt you and keep it forever." He turns into a Batman villain, basically. Yeah. And I think that...
There.
I'm sorry, what was that, Gemma?
I was saying, I see what you mean there.
Yeah, I think that would have worked really strongly if this other David was just continually sobbing and just begging not to have been hurt, but he's forced to anyway because he needs to get out there, rather than, "Oh, I'm going to attack you now, so now the more ambiguity of me hurting you is now gone."
Yeah. Yeah, like maybe like there was something else in there that started to threaten him, like you said, like having the doppelganger said, "I'm going to hurt you," like kind of took away from, like, because now he's justified in fighting back. But like maybe if he still didn't want to, but something was like coming up behind him, knew it was going to hurt him, like it's like, okay, either I hurt this guy or I get hurt. And like,
well, I think just the prospect of him not getting out of there would be enough to push him. Like, again, like, I'm bringing up a comparison to Saw, and that's why I think the first Saw movie worked. Was it's either you're stuck here forever and you don't hurt yourself, basically, or you're pushed to your limit, but you can at least escape.
okay, yeah, that is better.
Yeah.
But Gemma, I have to say though, like when we couldn't really hear that last thing you said and your connection cutting out, it all makes fucking sense now. You're trying to stream with us from Gallifrey.
Oh dear.
Probably in a different time period. Just like, but
Yeah.
I need to read this comment from a user named She Loves Hulu. Well, imagine that being like your definitive thing in life. Like, I love Hulu. But she says, "Hey, I need help trying to make something on a wiki that I made." Well, thank you for that brilliant addition to the comments. She loves Hulu, and she edited that too, and it's still written like shit.
Imagine just going to the creepypasta wiki being like, hey, can someone help me out here with something? I'm not going to tell you what it is, but like, DM me. I don't even know if you can DM somebody on wiki.
That might have been like a really desperate plea for attention, like, maybe they'll be interested and ask about it, and we could have a conversation.
I love the conversation below it. No one answered her, by the way.
Yeah, no replies.
But there was a little conversation in this one. What is the NoEnd House?
A house William with C. no end.
No shit.
Indeed.
What is this? A story for ants.
Hello, okay. Cameron. Just got here, no clue what's going on, but well, yeah, we actually finished the story pretty quickly this time. Yes,
okay,
I think a streaming platform.
I think this comment kind of sums up what Darius feels about this story. From Nightmaric God, me and everyone else here face palming. Boy, you dumb as fuck.
And then we get a reply from She Loves Hulu. Lol. Just I know Cobb said this many times before. Just these are the people on the creepypasta wiki.
Yeah, so this is
Most
what happened.
Most of them are kids.
Yeah. Still, I think you'd have something more to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay, wait.
Well, I'll tell you something that I've learned from websites and yes, I like using webcomics, but webcomics actually has or webtoons, that's what it's called. Webtoon actually has some pretty good stuff on there too. But what thing I learned is that any constructive criticism you may have is completely dismissed. Even if you are as nice as possible and do your best to offer constructive criticism, hey, I think, if I commented what I said before about the doppelganger part, I would either be completely dismissed or people would be telling me I'm a cunt for daring to insult it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Actually, that's a good lead into this next comment from Tiki Isaac. Oh, how original. Who was also the commenter who gave the insightful line of "no shit" earlier. Honestly, this is probably the best pasta, tied with Ben Drowned.
Oh!
Now, I'm not one for telling people to end their lives, but...
Okay, well... Again, child, but you forgot their rating system. Creepiness, 9 out of 10. Suspense, 10 out of 10. Psychological effect, 27 out of 10. Go back to math class, sweetie.
Yeah, I was gonna
Overall, say... No. Overall, 10 out of 10. That's not how math works either.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Okay, now, as we learned with Rudy, some people have problems with fractions, but I think even Rudy would be able to tell you that 27 tenths is not how anything works.
Yes, that's not how math works.
This is actually I really like this comment. My friend said this reminded her of her 8th birthday party.
What?
That's my favorite comment of all time. That's the best review ever.
That is a great review.
It's so specific to her 8th birthday party, not her 7th or 9th, her 8th.
And someone even does ask how the heck.
Yeah.
She never responded. I'm glad she never did. I hope it never gets answered. I can't think of anything better than imagining all the scenarios that could remind this person of her 8th birthday party.
Yeah. Well, it's like Cobb and I talked about the one time for probably like an hour and a half. I just love, especially in horror stories, a lot of times when there is no answer, no explanation. That comment, not giving a response, is that times a million.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, Mr. Kuhn said, it's okay, Manny, you just want them to end game in Minecraft, right? Yes. Yes, I'll say that. Let's see, anything else interesting here?
I'm gonna have to head off because I need to eat.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten yet.
I should do that.
Yeah, I'll
as
be
well.
ordering myself Chipotle in a few minutes.
You have impeccable
nice.
taste.
I've never had Chipotle, but I've heard good things about it.
Good things. Very
Oh,
good
yeah.
things.
Alright, well then, I'll just end it here. So everyone, thanks for joining us. We'll be back. Well, Kenzie and I will be back tomorrow along with Raptor Rex for more.
This is the most reasonably timed stream we've ever done.
Yes.
Yeah.
For Empress Teresa, where there will be drinking and a lot more foul language, I can guarantee.
Oh, goes without saying.
And then you can join us next week for. Well, I'm not going to say what we're going to be reading next week. It's going to be a surprise.
It's because we haven't decided yet.
Hush! They were oblivious. Now they're laughing at us.
They deserve to know the truth. And they are only laughing at you.
Hey.
Sorry, it's your channel.
Anyway, guys. Please be sure to like the video. That really does help with